In this video, I'm going to share with you a very useful tip when it comes to purchasing a new PS5 controller. Whether you're replacing an old defective controller or maybe just looking to get a new PlayStation 5 controller for your system, there's one thing that you should know before you unbox your new controller and use it for the very first time. If you've heard of the term stick drift or loose triggers when talking about the original PS5 controller, then you're familiar with the common issues that can happen over time with PS5 controllers. In fact, a durability investigation determined that the average PS5 controller has a trouble-free life expectancy of just 417 total hours of playtime, which means the average user could end up needing to replace their controller every couple years. But if you want your next controller to last as long as possible, there's one thing that I recommend you check first. On your new controller, you want to turn it over and check the FCC ID inscripted on the back. It'll basically read as a bunch of random numbers and capital letters. But look closely and focus your attention to the very end of the ID itself. If you see the number 1, your controller is more susceptible to experience issues like stick drift and loose triggers in the long term. But if you see the letter A, then this means you are actually less likely to experience these issues. And reason why is because recently Sony made a few mechanical improvements to the newly built DualSense controllers, specifically to the thumbsticks and the adaptive triggers. And the easiest way to tell if your new controller has these improvements built in without completely taking it apart is to simply look at the FCC ID. If you see the letter A at the end of the ID, then your controller has the improved thumbsticks and triggers. But if it says the number 1, you might want to consider returning it, as these controllers are made with the original parts and do not have the mechanical improvements. A way to guarantee that your next controller will have the new improvements is to purchase a DualSense controller from the Galaxy collection. Look for Starlight Blue, Galactic Purple, or Nova Pink, as all these controllers were built with the improved triggers and thumbsticks. Otherwise, you can just check the FCC ID on the back of your controller and look for the letter A at the end of the ID. It's a sign that your controller will hold up much better in the long term. But now you know exactly what to check after purchasing a new PlayStation 5 controller and how to make sure it'll last as long as possible. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you found it useful or at least interesting, and if you did, make sure to leave a like rating, comment below to let me know what you think, and as always, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for post notifications. I'll see you next video, boys.